Hey guys, May Turner here from Phoenix Fire Designs. I just wanted to do a quick video today because the topic of Hurricane Dorian and canceled shows came up on my Facebook, and it seemed to me like it was a good time to talk a little bit about shows and being a vendor at events and markets and festivals and how that all works and what happens. Don't think a lot of people know this unless you are in the industry and you do craft shows and festivals and markets and things like that. So I thought maybe I'd go over some of the process a little bit. So first of all, when you sign up to do a different event, most of the time you're signing up for these things upwards of 6 months, sometimes even a year in advance. A lot of the bigger events and festivals have their sign-up sheets start almost last event ended. So you really have to sign up for these things well in advance. And in my case, I do several markets with the same group, the same organization. And we do different monthly markets or weekly markets. And those you sign up the entire season at once. So when the signups come over the summer, you go through the whole season and you pick your entire, you want to do this show and that show. And you do them all, you sign them up all for the whole season all at once. Oh, hi Ginger. Phoenix Fire Designs official shop assistant Ginger apparently decided she wanted to be part of the video. Say hi, Floof. So anyway, when you sign up for these things, like I said, first of all, you sign up far in advance, generally speaking. It's something that like I literally have a calendar that's nothing but signing up and keeping track of like a year's worth of events, because things often are months, 6 months, sometimes even a year ahead of time. When you sign up for these things, of course, you have no idea what the weather is going to be or what what's going on exactly. You can just do your best to try to plan and accommodate based on general things. Like if you know it's your birthday that weekend, then maybe you don't want to do a show and you can schedule it off. But beyond that, generally you just sign up well in advance. Now, almost every single show or festival or market will have some kind of application fee. Most things are what's known as a juried show. So you have to apply, you have to pay a fee to say, yes, here's my fee, here's what I'm about, here's my photos, here's my product. You talk about yourself, your product, how long you've been in business. You submit examples of what your booth and your product look like, things like that. Now that application fee is always non-refundable. It's always just part of the process. Again, step one is way ahead of time. You have to look for the events. Step two is sign up. You have to pay your application fee. Step three, if you get accepted, then you have to generally pay your booth fee then and there. So a lot of times you're paying these things, again, months in advance, especially for the bigger events. Now my monthly markets that I do, I pay those, invoice me like a week or two before and I pay them then. So I have a, every week or every couple weeks I pay for that upcoming market. But bigger events, bigger festivals, things like that, you pay for them at the time that you're approved. So for example, like I paid for an event that's coming up at the end of November. I paid for that back in May. So that's just how it goes. You just pay for these things ahead of time. So then as you get closer, then you tend to get the booth layout, the assignment of where you're going to be, the setup instructions, things like that. When you get very close to the event, and something like this is going on with the weather, with the hurricane, it's a toss-up. Sometimes the event will cancel it and they'll say, okay, well, if the organizer cancels, they will refund you or they will give you a credit toward another event. Sometimes they say it's non-refundable no matter what. So even if they cancel, sometimes you don't get your money back. It's kind of one of those things where it's part of doing business. The explanation on the organizer side is that regardless of if the event happens or not, they have to book the space, they have to pay for advertising, they have to pay for marketing, they have to pay for all the different aspects of putting on the event, whether the event happens or not. Those costs happened ahead of the time. So sometimes some events, no matter what, even if they cancel the event, sometimes you're out of luck. So you're talking, like I said, once again, months in advance, you booked it, you paid your application fee, you paid your booth fee, and then sometimes there's no event. That's it. You're out money. Even if events do give you your money back, a lot of times people travel for events, especially if they're like a weekend or a 3-day event. A lot of times people will book a hotel room, often on that short notice of a few days before the event. You can't cancel your hotel. You're already out those expenses. Their pre-show expenses, you may have bought merchandise or displays. You may have stocked up on product. You may have purchased food and drinks and things. Like I know when we do a show, we always buy beverages and Gatorade and, sandwich fixings and stuff like that because you're there for a minimum of 10 hours at any given time for a show, and you need drinks and food. Depending on if your show runs into the evening, you may have had to buy some battery operated lighting, different things like that. So there can be a lot of upfront costs, and when an event gets canceled, even if you do get your money back for your booth, which again, you don't always, it just really depends on how it's structured. A lot of times your contract will say whether it's non-refundable no matter what, or it'll say refundable only if the act of God kind of the event has to get canceled by the organizers. No matter what, though, sometimes you can be out significant amount of money for an event, time, preparation, things like that. So, and then of course, not to mention, if you don't have the event, then you don't have that opportunity to sell items. And of course, then you're out that potential income, which is the entire point of doing the event in the first place. So, it can be a big risk. I don't think a lot of people understand the expense and the time and the resources that go into doing different markets, festival shows, things like that. They can definitely be expensive. I said, you pay for these things. You have to pay for them, sign them up months and months in advance most of the time. And, so this is money that you've put out, hoping that fees back and then some, obviously, because you're not doing it just to break even. Now, if an event, sometimes because of the fact that the contracts will say that, if they cancel, you will get your money back. Sometimes they just don't cancel. And they do that specifically knowing that you just will eat the fees. Because you're having 50-mile-an-hour winds, torrential rain, thunderstorms, lightning, if it's dangerous or something, if there's flooding, you're not going to show up. And so they're like, well, all right, well, if they cancel, if you don't show up, that's on you. We're going to be here no matter what. And so sometimes it gets a little shady because they specifically will not cancel knowing that they don't want to have to refund you. Again, it's just one of those things where some organizers are better than others. Some companies are better to work with than others. Some companies are definitely more in it for the money rather than for helping promote, artists and handcrafted and things like that. It kind of just depends on the focus of the organizer. Some event coordinators and organizers are definitely, they're just churning them out because they just want to try to have as many events and collect that like $35 application fee and $200 or $300 or $400 booth fee. I mean, you think about it, you're going to have 100 booths at an event. Maybe 200 people apply times $35 each. You take all 200 people at $35 each, you just get to keep that no matter what. You pick 100 people, you get $200 or $300 per vendor, at 100 people each. It can be quite lucrative to put on an event. Now, I'm not saying that it's not expensive, renting your location, paying for your security, your insurance, things like that. But, it can be very lucrative to run an event. And it's why it's very important and why artists often talk to each other about what events are good and what events are bad and what event coordinators look out for their artists and stuff, because some of them do and some of them don't. And the ones that do, it's always harder to get into those events because people know that they're putting on a good event. They're not going to screw you over. They're not just in for the money. They're looking out for their vendors. They're actually providing a valuable service to a vendor. A well-run event is going to have good advertising, it's going to have good security, it's going to have a good layout, they're not going to have too many of the same product, things like that that give you the best opportunity to succeed. So it's definitely one of those things where, you get into the competition of between different vendors and different artists trying to find, get a space in an event, and then also, of course, trying to find the right event, a good event. The group that I do my monthly markets in, all Tampa Bay markets, and they do a great job with, they're like local and they work with us and we become like a real family and we all get to know each other. And that's like a really good thing. If you can get in with like a really good organizer and do events with the same organizer in different areas and stuff, it's usually a really good thing, because then you have that established relationship. As an artist, whether it's weather related or illness or whatever, if you cancel as an artist, you forfeit your booth automatically. There's just no, it's if you cancel, it's on you. You have to eat the cost. Most shows require, different types of show insurance. I just buy an annual policy because it's cheaper that way to buy an annual policy. It costs me about $300 a year for a liability for my insurance. Some people do it by show. If they don't do a lot of shows, they may only pick it up for, you can do like a 3-day policy just to cover a show. And if you had, so for example, again, you signed up for the show, you paid your application fee, you paid your booth fee, maybe you bought your insurance for the weekend and the show gets canceled. That insurance policy that you purchased, if you purchased for just a weekend, again, that's another expense in addition to maybe hotel or travel or food or things like that, product, stuff like that. So I'm just basically trying to give you an idea of how it works. Being a vendor, being an artist at an event, at a show, at a festival, it can definitely add up. It can cost a lot of money before you even, get in the door. So before you're even there, before you even set up your tables and set up your tent and try to sell your stuff, which is also why when it's a bad event, it can be really devastating, because you put in so much work and so much time and so much money and so much effort. And if you don't make anything for it, it's devastating, because it's like all that work. It's physical. It's a lot of physical, doing a show. People just don't realize how much work that is. I'll do that. I'll talk about what it takes to actually physically set up a show. I'll do that another day. But this topic just came about, like I said, because we were talking about hurricanes and what happens in the event of a show closure or cancel, different ways that it's handled. And I just kind of wanted to go over it because I don't think a lot of people knew the entire process and what's all involved in all of that. So hopefully maybe you found that a little interesting and you learned a little bit, and I hope to be able to answer some more questions and educate people on what it's like to be a working small business artist, jewelry designer / craft show participant. I hope you guys find this informational and educational, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate a thumbs up on my video, and look forward to seeing you back here for some more videos again in the future. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.